screams of the aroused Oziewe Tawatas, the men of war, the Dakota and Northern Cheyenne fighting warriors. And down in the rough circle of the wagons, where the smell of animals was strong and the faces of people were pinched tight with tension, drawn like the warhead of an Indian drum, Kit Butler swung off his horse and gazed from level blue eyes at the turmoil of men walking, women cooking the morning meal, and children, in a fecundity of hushed irresolution, wandering everywhere. 160 people. 77 were men. His lean body stood beside the tired horse. A small boy came and took the reins and led the animal away. He stood so still that Lige Turner, poking at a sickly fire, stopped what he was doing to look at him. But for the low breeze that rippled Kit's blond hair, he would have looked like a carving. His slimness, with its aura of indefatigable strength, was projected vividly against the massiveness of the old, scarred wagons. His waist was circled by a brass-studded cartridge belt, from which carelessly hung a Colt dragoon pistol. He held a carbine, butt down, with his right hand, showing the easy familiarity of a man who had never been out of reach of guns. His face was deeply etched from experiences blasted out of a stark existence, and yet he wasn't more than 25 or 30 years of age. His chest was broad and deep, his belly ribbed with tawny muscle, and something about him set him apart from the drabness of the people who had hired him and Lige to pilot them across the Indian country. Something wild and savage and brutal, like the land, and hushed and inward, too. Lige, who had seen the expression many times, watched the play of brooding gravity over the sharply chiseled, bronzed face. It was like a far-off storm first appearing over the rim of the horizon, spreading lowering shadows threateningly downward over the lower portion of Kit's face. He sighed and poked glumly at the snapping little flames of a breakfast fire. He recalled their rough existence back at Independence on the Missouri with a mountain man's nostalgia. Those were the days when men stood on their own feet or were carried out by them. The fur trade was gone, thanks to Europe's importation of new styles based on silk and chintz and whatnot. The trappers were scattered or piloting people like these, emigrants with long beards, subdued homespun clothing, and unwieldy, inaccurate guns. Many a night he and Kit Butler had squatted at an Indian powwow and gorged on half-cooked buffalo hump, had joined in the violent and unrestrained dancing, had drunk the Dakotas and Arapahoes, the Rees and Cheyennes and Shoshones under the table, then laid down among them and slept like babes. Not any more. A few whites of mountain man caliber had been all right, even welcomed among them. This was different. These psalm-singing emigrants who came now killed game without need, fired forests to clear paths for their wagons, and burned off prairie grass to make it hard for Indian horses to graze near the trails. Times had changed. Shaking his head, Lige looked around again and called softly, "Kit, come eat." He watched the scout move toward him and sighed again. Kit used the same long, springing stride, as though he still wore moccasins instead of the foot-killing cowhide boots. The same blunt jaw set, like the prow of a ship, jutted out to meet life head-on. "Well, what did you find?" Kit dropped down and folded his legs. He gazed into the fire with his sharp look and shrugged. "What you'd expect, I reckon." "Injuns?" "Indian sign. Dakotas. They've been trailing us for a couple of days." "How many of the devils?" "Enough," Kit said, succinctly. "We're pretty deep into their country now." Lige hung a limp piece of red meat between two forked sticks and held the morsel over the fire, turning it from time to time with a solemn watchfulness. "Northern Cheyennes with them?" "Doesn't look like it. Looks to me like just Dakotas. But a big band of them. Maybe 100. Lige swore softly and turned the meat. The smell rose and swirled around them when the breeze came warmly. "We're in for a skittle, then, I'd say. Do these Wasitchus know it?" Kit shook his head. "Nah, what the hell. They send out 5 or 6 men and ride all over the tracks. They sit on their horses, shading their cussed eyes and looking out over the country. It's funny." "It would be," Lige agreed, "if it wasn't so danged pathetic.